Direct ears to hear. Listen here.
Have you ever had a really bad day where it just seems like everything's going wrong? You know those moments where you just feel like, anything that could possibly go wrong is absolutely going wrong. And you kind of just sit there and you think to yourself, man, is God listening to me? Like you might be asking for help, you might be crying for help, and it just seems like nothing's happening at all. And you're sitting there and you're going, come on, God, can you please just talk? Just talk to me, say something, encouragement, say something to us, like we're just waiting for God to speak to us, but it seems like nothing's happening. Well, in those moments, it just feels like God's silent, and like he's just not talking. And, you just sit there and you think, where is God in all of this? And it's just completely silent. It can be really lonely in the silence. I mean, on one hand, you're just desperate for God to say something, just to lift your spirits, just to feel like everything's going to go good. But unfortunately, there's just complete silence. And you just sit there and you wonder, where is God in all of this? Many times in our life, there's moments of silence, and there's moments where it feels like God's just not listening to us, and we just want God to be there, present. And there's moments of being lonely and just waiting for God and waiting upon God can really stretch our faith, and it can really mess with your head and really brush you around. And it's almost as if you know that God's speaking, you know that God's there. I mean, other people are witnessing, and other people are knowing that he's there and they can hear from him and everything, but it just seems like, you just can't listen at all, and you just can't hear him. And it's almost as if we're in a totally different frequency. We're in a totally different range than where God's meant to be, and it just doesn't make sense. But we look at God, and we're looking for him, and we're just wanting him to speak. We're wanting him to talk, and maybe we just need to tune in. Maybe that's what we need to do. Is just tune in to God. This whole talk about trying to find the frequency of God and trying to listen to God and trying to get the right frequency kind of reminds me of a story in the Bible. Here's this guy Elijah, and he's just had this tremendous battle. He's had this battle against these priests, and he's had this tremendous victory within this battle. They're praying to their own gods, and they're sitting there in Mount Carmel, and he has this massive victory. And instead of enjoying the fruits of his splendor and enjoying the victory, he just freaks out, and he has this massive freak out, and all of a sudden it seems like just God's not there. It seems like the presence of God is not with Elijah anymore. He can't hear his voice, and so he just runs away. He's fearing for his life, mind you. There's this lady Jezebel that's trying to kill him, and he fears for his life, and so he just packs up, jumps ships, and he's just running away, and he ends up hiding in this cave. While he's in the cave, God actually does show up, and God goes, Elijah, what are you doing? And Elijah starts to tell him about his life, and he starts to tell him, oh, man, I'm the last one of the good guys left. There's no other prophet. There's no one else but me. I'm the only one here. There's all these evil kings. There's this lady Jezebel that wants to kill me. And he just starts going on to God about how he feels that he's so deserted, and he just needs to listen from him, and he can't hear him. And so God tells Elijah, you know what? Go to the edge of the mountain. Go to the edge of the cave, because the presence of God is about to pass by. The Bible says that Elijah gets there, and this thrashing wind just comes by, this strong, powerful wind. And it's just this massive tornado that just starts to blow everything in its wake and just starts to push things aside and devour things. And the Bible says that God wasn't in the wind. And then after the wind, the Bible says that there's this powerful earthquake. There's just that shaking the whole entire earth at its core, and everything is just crumbling and breaking down, and it's just completely rocks and parts of the mountain just falling off. But God wasn't in the earthquake. And then after the earthquake, there's this fire, and the fire just consumes everything, just completely passes through the valley and just consumes and burns and leaves everything into ashes. But God wasn't in the fire. And then almost as if by chance, Elijah's frequency is starting to tune in to God. And the Bible says, and he puts it this way, it's so beautiful, he wraps his face with his cloak, walks to the edge of the cave, and is encountered by silence. And in the sheer silence, he hears the small, still voice of God. But the thing that I find interesting is that God was speaking to him all along. Elijah just wasn't tuned in. His ears weren't tuned in to God's voice. He was so focused in the moment that he was stuck. He was so focused in the bad things that were happening in his life that he didn't realize that God was always talking. It's almost like he's waiting for us to be ready to listen. He needed to wait for Elijah to be ready to actually listen to God and stop focusing on where he was at. And I just keep going back to that point in the Bible where it says, he wrapped his face with his cloak, and in the sheer silence, he hears God's small, still voice. God was always talking. He was always speaking. He was waiting for the moment for Elijah to be ready and willing to listen. And he wrapped his face with his cloak. And in the sheer silence, he hears God's small, still voice.
He who has ears to hear, let him hear.